Here are just a few of the tools. I must confess we don't use all of them. Some of it is just for storage here so that it's not storage at home. This was a $25 fine at a tool gathering. It was in pretty bad shape, not so cracked, but otherwise it was you know, a very salvageable piece, and it's one that I use pretty regularly. A nice old Plow Plane. I believe it's a Denison, a New England maker. This is my very first Plow Plane, and I acquired this through an antique dealer. It's English, and if you look closely you can see that it has some replacement parts, particularly the wedge, but it too came with what I call a mixed set of irons. And here you see we're using a combination of both wooden and metal planes. This is a router plane, a Stanley piece that is really just an evolution of what they would have referred to as an old woman's tooth. I think I have no fewer than 3 Stanley 45s and one 55 with a fairly complete set of blades. And this is something that probably don't use it to its full extent, but for things like reading and beading and plowing, it's a very serviceable tool. Again, this will probably make the average craftsman cringe because of the way things are not so well arranged, but believe it or not, we know pretty much where everything is. There's a set of mixed set of chisels, a variety of tools for layout. The three spoke shaves or more in here. The chest came out of Pennsylvania, and I think the drawers, the number of tool drawers was a late add-on. Have a variety of things in here. These are interesting. I'm not so sure how many people still use these, but these are dogs that are used for joining boards together. When you butt 2 boards together, you can drive this into the end grain, and by the very design of this, it will pull the boards in. And it's particularly good if you're using hide glue. It saves on clamps, and does a very effective job in holding things in place until they set up. Here's a set of mostly Swedish. I think this job right here might be Swiss. I know this is a Swiss piece. And primarily, I've used these for doing bowls for the Native American village complex. Let me just take out a couple of drawers there. You can see my plow irons. Well, it's an eclectic set. This one has principally molders as opposed to hollows and rounds. My hollows and rounds are pretty much in the other. And again, it's not a complete set brought from some location, but represents about 30 years of my collecting tools. It's a fairly nice envelope. Yes, sir. As you can see, it has been used. There's the old woman's tooth that I made reference to earlier as an early type of router plane. My favorite planes are those that I can use, and what that generally represents is a plain iron, and this of course even has some debris left in it, that matches up with a plain body. I look for, when I'm purchasing these, irons that have not been overheated and therefore won't hold an edge. To the extent possible, I'm making sure when I purchase these that you know, the wedge is an appropriate match for it, and that the iron is the appropriate iron. I'm sure your viewers are familiar with these spring lines, which are guides and telling you how to hold the plane as you pass it over the wood for producing the molding. My purpose is having a low bench on that is really no higher than about my wrist, that I can actually, as I'm planing, look over the edge of the plane and see the spring marks, so that I'm always holding that at the appropriate angle. Sometimes the spring lines get a little faded on me, so I'll take a piece of chalk and fill them in. But this is a plane that I have used pretty regularly. We do all of our moldings with molding planes versus a router or a shaper.
So tell me about some of your favorite planes in here.
This is a favorite, not one that I've used, but simply because of its rarity. It is an American-made Sash plane. I have every reason to believe it's probably 18th century. It has heavy chamfering, a rounded iron in it, scribe lines, which were often left on early planes, and the tote handle is held in with a nail, a large blacksmith-made nail. So I think it has all of the characteristics of being pretty early, and the tote style speaks also of an earlier date. I'm just kind of reaching and grabbing. This is probably some of these planes have seen better days, and as you can see, there's evidence that a piece was tacked on here in order to build up a fence so that it could be locked against the fence while planing. And without that fence, which at some point in time came loose, it's very difficult to keep this plane in place, unless you used your fingers, which is certainly one method. Again, I have a fair number of just complex molders. There's another one that I've used with some frequency. And this is interesting from the standpoint that this strip here was showing wear, and it has, I think it's probably two bone insets to prevent further wear of the piece. If you're a purist and you have to have all the parts and you really need to look things over carefully. In this case, it was missing the back nut.
And this was a scraper plane you were saying?
This is a scraper plane, yeah, Stanley number 12.5, and it has a not a Stanley scraper, but a Kunz, I guess you pronounce it, a German, but works extremely well. And having a piece of rosewood on the bottom, which apparently retains its oil indefinitely. These are some of the earlier Diston saws, and you can tell that they bear the imprint of Henry Diston, both a rip and a cross cut here. This one you can't see quite as well, but it has Henry Diston. And I have been able over the years to acquire these for as little as $5, depending on where I can find them. This one I had to do a little repair on the handle. And this magnificent medallion that's characteristic of the early saws in general. Yeah, that's fairly straight. Okay. I built this bench about 25 years ago. And at the time, I was really just getting very interested in hand planing. I was making a lot of framing type materials. So I built it with the idea of 4 dogs, 2 in the screw part of it and 2 in the body, so that I could actually take a frame and glue it up and hold it in place and just use a couple cross clamps. It's a red oak piece. It's probably more English in style than anything else. I've always had wood screws. In this case, these are antique pieces, but you know, if you take care of them, they really do hold up pretty well. You just need to know not to put a lot of strain on them. As I think I pointed out earlier, one of the things I like about the height of this bench is that I can actually see over the edge of the plane, and I'm using this spring line. And I probably need to set this as a wee bit too aggressive. I might try to take out some of the chatter marks here.